Good afternoon, everyone. Just wanted to introduce you to the One Tree Canoe Company. We have the owner here, Dan Albridge. He's going to give us a bit of a factory tour today, so to get you an understanding of how these beautiful canoes are actually constructed. There's a lot of love and attention goes into these things, and we just want to walk you through that process. So Dan, what are we going to start with today?
Hi guys, welcome to One Tree Canoe. We're very lucky to be here. We've got a magnificent place on the banks of the Brisbane River. We do a variety of things here. We do hires and tours, but the thing we're going to talk about today, as Paul's alluded to, is about our factory. So if you want to come with me, I'll show you how we make the magic.
So Dan, what's the first step in building a canoe?
What we've got here, Paul, is a mould. So the mould sets the shape of a fibreglass item. So our fibreglass is basically laid into this mould. So you'll see the mould is beautiful and shiny on the inside. That's what gives the beautiful mirror finish on the product when it comes out. Now, we spend a lot of time on making sure that the mould keeps its finish, because that ultimately determines what the product finish looks like. You'll also notice that the mould's got a flange around the outside. The wider flanges with modern moulds allow us to do a process called vacuum bagging, which we'll talk about later. But basically, the first step we're going to talk about today is how we spray the gel coat into the mould. So we'll go into the spray booth and we'll talk a little bit about that.
So folks, the next part is to now put some colour into the canoe, which is called the gel coat. Dan, how does that process work?
So the very first thing we do with a fibreglass product is we spray the gel coat in. So we actually build the product from the outside in. So inside the mould here, you see that there's a bit of material sprayed in. That's called gel coat. Gel coat's actually a resin. So the beautiful thing about fiberglass is that all the product throughout its strata, it's all basically the same chemistry. It's all a polyester or a vinyl ester, which all chemically bond to each other as well as mechanically bond. So first step is we spray the gel coat into the mould. So your spray gun at home, guys, you might be used to a 0.7 or a 1.5 mil tip. We use a 3.5 or a 4.5 mil tip to spray the gel coat in. So we spray about 500 microns, so about 0.5 millimetre thick of gel coat in here. And you'll see it gives a beautiful, consistent finish. And this is what we use to build our boat up from. Also, I've got here one of our little moulds. For our end caps, we also spray the gel coat into the mould so that we can make a part which with the end caps that I'll show you later.
So Dan, we'll put gel coat onto the canoe. What's the next step in the process?
I'm glad you asked, Paul. Follow me into the bat cave.
Oh, okay.
So, once we've sprayed gel coat into the mould, the next thing we have to do is lay the fiberglass in. Now, we choose to do this in 2 stages because we believe it gives a better quality finish. So the first stage that we do is we put what we call a tie layer, which is a thin layer of glass you can see on this boat here. So the thin tie layer that we put in here is using a vinyl ester resin. A vinyl ester resin is a very tough resin, and when it's in behind the gel coat like this, it makes the gel coat a bit tougher so it can handle the bangs and scrapes that the canoe gets during its use. Once we've got the tie layer in, then we lay our normal laminate. We do 2 different types of laminating here. We do a hand laminating, which is, as it sounds, by hand, where we lay the glass in and roll the resin in. The second style we do is a process called vacuum bagging, which is the assembly you can see up the back there. And basically it's very similar, except that rather than rolling the laminate down with a steel roller, we actually put a bag over the top and suck it down to 1/2 an atmosphere of pressure, and that pulls out the excess resin, compresses the laminate, and makes it really strong and tough.
So Dan, that's a very similar method to the modern boat production, isn't it, with the bagging?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. How does that then compare to something like these new plastic canoes we can get from BCF and normal sort of sports shops and so forth?
Well, this is the thing about fiberglass. The technology's changed so much these days. The glasses that we can use and also the resins we use are much, much better than they were 20 years ago. So typically a hand-laid boat for a similar sized boat would be about 2 to 3 kilos lighter than your average plastic boat. And our vacuum bag jobs are about 8 to 10 kilos lighter, so quite a significant saving.
That's a lot of weight off a kayak, isn't it, or a canoe? So if you're looking at the plastic option, this is actually a lighter option today, as opposed to 20, 30 years ago when these would be a much heavier item.
Absolutely.
And now you've got something that's actually lighter than a plastic kayak or canoe, guys, to put up on top of your car. So think about loading it onto a vehicle. This is actually going to be a lighter option, which is really interesting, and I don't know that anyone really knows about it yet at this point in time, so that's great. So Dan, we've got a canoe here out of the mould. That's a very interesting colour scheme.
It is, it is.
It's beautiful.
So the final stage in the process, we demould the part, and the part comes out looking like this. It'll have a little bit of an edge here where we've trimmed it off. So we trim off the top. The next thing we do is we put our flotation tanks in. So you see the tank here, that gets glassed in, and then we put a coat, another coat of gel coat over the top, and that's called a finish coat. It's a special type of coat that's meant to be very abrasion resistant for all little deers are rubbing their feet backwards and forwards. So this is the part ready for fit out now. So it's had its flotation tanks in, it's had its final coat of interior gel coat. Again, it's a colour that you can choose, Paul.
Yeah, which is nice.
And then we go to fit out. Now, a couple of things I wanted to show you when we talk about fit out. Some of the parts we make ourselves, you'll notice on the end here is our end caps that we make ourselves with our little tree emblem in them. You'll also see that we have the cheek plates here which support our seats, and they go up inside the gunnel there. So all of these parts we make ourselves, the cheek plates, the end caps, the seats, the yokes and thwarts, all that's made by us so that we can customise as we need to. So, final stage of fit out. We put the gunnels on, end caps go on, cheek plates get slid up, the whole thing gets riveted down. So you can see along here, the rows of rivets here, every 150 mil. So it's a really strong finished item. Our seats get bolted in, our yoke gets bolted in, handles, and it's ready to go. Ready to get on the water and create your adventures.
A couple of things I love about this, Dan, is there's no sharp edges inside. You can't feel the rivets at all. It's really nicely rolled over inside here. So yeah, really great finish on these canoes, people. And yeah, definitely worth coming out to the factory to have a look at exactly how this process is done and get a feel for what's involved in actually making a great canoe.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time, Dan. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.